Okay, so other YouTubers have pretty much already talked about this, but despite seeing them talk about it, to tell you the truth, listening to them talk about it, I was so bored listening to them talk about it that I pretty much didn't finish watching any of their videos. I'm not going to name names about who was talking about this. But the bottom line is, I just couldn't bring myself to finish watching their videos because I swear it was so boring. And to tell you the truth, I really think that the lack of excitement is ultimately what has already killed this car. So this is about the Dodge Charger Daytona Order Guide. Reveals some very cool options for the EV, right? So as you already know, very, very soon, these Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram dealerships are going to be getting shipments of these Charger EVs, right? So they lazily made a two-door Charger EV, and then what they did was they took the exact same, for the most part, overall body style, and they made a four-door. So now they have a four-door Charger, which, the last generation of Charger was four doors, but then they have the two-door Charger, which, back in, the 60s, the 70 version of the Charger was a two-door. So they've tried to kind of go back to the roots, but they've done it introducing an electric vehicle. And from what I can see, there's really nothing to be excited about. I believe that when I do drive that car, because as soon as the dealers get them, I'm going to go and I'm going to test drive one. I'm going to make a small video test driving it. But for the most part, this car is 5,800 pounds, and the initial horsepower that they're offering is only like around, like, give or take a couple of horsepower. It's like 500 horsepower, right? There's a single motor unit, which has less horsepower, and that's pretty much how EVs are basically sold. Usually there's a single motor that's somewhere around 300 to anywhere between 300 and 380 horsepower. But then there's a dual motor version that's somewhere around 500, possibly even 600. And the reality is, when you're dealing with this much weight, this car is much, much heavier than a Tesla Model S. It's also much, much, much heavier than a Tesla Model 3. And now they have a Model 3 with high performance coming. I believe it's the ludicrous Model 3. They may even have a plaid Model 3. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to label it because nothing's official yet. But the reality is, this thing is really, really heavy. It's longer than the current Dodge Charger. But from what I've seen, pretty much all EVs basically drive basically the same. But from what I've seen, this thing offers like no, how should I say it? Offers no advantage over buying a Tesla, especially if you're spending a large amount of money. Tesla has, the plaid mode, which runs like 9.5 all day long. And you're spending about $100,000 for that. And right now, Dodge's dealers, they're trying to get $100,000 for every wide body Hellcat that they sell, which, ultimately those cars have a higher top speed. And even though they don't accelerate from 0 to the quarter mile as fast as these electric cars do, the simple fact is they have a much higher top speed. And, the purists who want to have engines that they can finagle, or transmissions that they can work with, or whatever, these cars, you can't do any of that. So once again, it's like, I believe that the Dodge enthusiasts who actually like to do work on their cars, they're never going to buy these things. So really quickly, I'll just go through some of the information. It's like, it says Dodge Charger Daytona EV Order Guide reveals exciting options for first edition models. 2 configurations available for Charger Daytona RT, and 3 for the Scat Pack. Pricing for first edition models yet to be released, and it's also kind of interesting that they're holding back on releasing the prices, because ultimately what they want is you're going to get sticker shock. We've known for a while that a Dodge Charger SRT was about $50,000. Now, I remember that when I had my Chrysler 300 SRT, my Chrysler 300 SRT was about $58,000. It was the Charger SRT that was about $50,000. And the Scat Pack was basically a cheaper version of the Charger SRT, which was released for, less than $50,000, depending upon what options you added on. When this car comes out and they see these cars hit dealerships, chances are these cars are going to exceed $50,000. Right then and there, you're going to know exactly how much more you're paying than if you were getting a gas version of this car. My guess is that these things could be anywhere between 55 and 60. But again, it's going to be sticker shock. You're going to have to wait and see. We're not going to know until these things actually start hitting dealers, and they haven't started hitting dealers probably until about July. So we'll have to find out. It says the order guide for the Dodge Charger Daytona EV is already with the dealers, and thankfully it has been shared with Mopar insiders to give us a sneak peek at the upcoming options for the first edition models. This follows the recent rumor that a cheaper rear-wheel drive GT version of the electric Dodge Charger is already in the works. Oh yeah, I have no doubt that they will be making a rear-wheel only version of this car. The thing about it is, anybody who understands electric vehicles should know that an electric version with rear wheel only is going to be slow. And when I say slow, it may take it up to 7 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour from a standstill. So anyway, it says according to the leaked dealer order guide, 2 configurations are available for the Charger Daytona RT, while the Scat Pack version gets 3. As expected, Dodge's direction connection upgrade. I thought it was called direct connection, but anyway, that adds extra electric ponies comes with each configuration, with varying stages depending on the configuration. Okay. Charger Daytona RT configurations. The configurations for the Charger Daytona RT focus on offering better amenities over maximum performance. Configuration 1 has everything covered, including dark aluminum wheels and badges. However, Configuration 2 will offer the red interior package, which includes demonic red seats with silver contrast stitches. So they're saying that you get plus 40 horsepower, leather performance seats, ventilated front seats, heated second row seats, interior ambient lighting, 16-inch gauge cluster. So most likely these cars are going to come with basic heated seats, but you're going to have to get a configuration upgrade in order to add the ventilated seats. So premium LED headlamps with cross-car LED DRL signature light, illuminated door handles, fixed and tinted full glass roof. So the question is whether or not they're going to offer the powered moonroof, which chances are they will. Alpine Pro 18 speaker premium sound system with subwoofer with 914 watt amp. Dark 20-inch by 19-inch aluminum wheels. 255 45 R20 AS tires. Dark RT fender badges. Okay, but if you get Charger Daytona RT Configuration 2, it's plus 40 horsepower. Leather performance seats, ventilated front seats, heated second row seats, interior ambient lighting, blah blah blah. See, this when I was watching these other people's videos, this is pretty much where I started like nodding away. I just did something else. It got boring because, to tell you the God's honest truth, I don't understand what they're trying to really get me excited for. But anyway, it says, as expected, the Scat Pack configurations focus more on higher horsepower and track-oriented upgrades. Nobody's driving one of these fucking things on the track, I'm telling you. With the exception of a couple of car reviewers, it's just not going to happen. But anyway, particularly with Track Pack and Direct Connection Stage 2 upgrade, increasing the EV's output to 670 horsepower. Scat Pack Configuration 1 has everything but the kitchen sink, while Configuration 2 adds a bit of luxury to the mix. Configuration 3 forgoes better cabin appointments for the fixed glass roof and a premium audio system. So they're saying it adds 80 horsepower, red Brembo 6-piston fixed front rotors, 305 fronts and 325 tires in the rear, high back leather suede performance seats, drive experience recorder. So this thing is going to use the front camera to record what you're seeing, and USB data output. So basically, I'm going to call it now. Whoever buys one of these things, or anybody who buys one of these things, chances are you're going to end up self-snitching and getting yourself locked up if you try speeding and recording yourself speeding and then upload it to social media. In fact, I may even read it off. There was a recent post about someone who was driving his Charger Hellcat at such a high speed, the town came after him and locked his car away. I think they arrested him, but basically they said you're not even allowed to drive your own car. I'm going to pull up that story in a little while. Might as well, since it's kind of related. Okay, so it says ventilated front seats, heated second row seats, interior ambient lighting, heads-up display, premium LED headlamps, anything else, carbon fiber stuff. Now, to tell you the truth, after owning the Chrysler 300 SRT, honestly, I'm not really a fan of how they do carbon fibers, so I'm going to have to see what those inlays look like, because if they're those same shitty carbon fiber stickers that I've had to have replaced multiple times on my Chrysler 300 SRT and my Jeep SRT, you can keep them, but we'll see. So anyway, that's configuration 2, and then I'll get to configuration 3, which, I'm just going to go straight to the top. Plus 80 horsepower, red Brembo, 6-piston front rotors, 305 front, 325 rear, high back leather, suede performance seats, drive experience recorder with front camera and USB data, fixed and tinted full glass roof, Alpine Pro 18 speaker premium system with the 914 watt amp. So from what it looks like, there's a possibility that this car may not offer a powered moonroof. The sunroof is the one that allows the sun to simply come through, but you can't open it. The moonroof is the one you can open. So because weight savings on a car that's already 5,800 pounds, I'll tell you right now, nobody is going to really track these things, because you're going to get embarrassed. First of all, it's like whatever energy you drive to the track with, you're going to have to rely on that in order to do whatever trying to drag race you're trying to do. So unless there's a charging station like right there, you're going to have issues preparing the car, because you actually have to precondition the battery in order to get maximum performance. So yeah, I'm sure that there are going to be people who buy these things and they're going to try to run them on the track to make YouTube content and everything. But for the most part, the average track event, ain't nobody going to really want to have to deal with one of these things. There's no point. You're going to get annihilated by, most of the other tuned up Hellcats. You're going to get annihilated. But anyway, it says Dodge has yet to release the pricing for its first edition models, but we'll likely hear about them a little bit more this month. That's because dealers will be assigned their allocation on the week of April 22nd. What's today? Today is the 17th. Okay? So that means next week they should be getting their allocations, right? Customers must use this website to determine which dealers have allocations for first edition models. You got to use this horsepower locator. Okay? And I think it says, of note, the first edition models are available in 3 colors: diamond black, triple nickel, and white knuckle. White knuckle. Okay. So they throw a couple of pictures here, a couple of pictures of the car. But this, to tell you the truth, there's nothing really exciting about it. It's like, to me, this Charger EV looks exactly like a Dodge Challenger SXT. There's no hood scoop this time around, simply because a hood scoop is anti-aerodynamic in a big way. So they don't have any hood scoops. The only, inlets that they actually need are the ones at the bottom where the air rushes over the battery. Of course, they have inlets for the air conditioning unit in order to heat exchange with the atmosphere. But there's no, I always felt that the Dodge Charger, it didn't look good until it got the Hellcat hood, which really bothered me because with the Jeep Trackhawk, they didn't give it the Hellcat hood. And with the Dodge Durango Hellcat, they did give it the Hellcat hood. But these cars don't look good at all unless they have that Hellcat hood. Like there's some people, who get excited for Scat Packs. I don't. Like I like seeing the Super Scat Packs that actually have Hellcat hoods on them. And the newer Super Scat Packs that they were selling had red-eye hoods. Because at a certain point, I believe it was between 2020 and 2023, Dodge, what they started doing was they started putting red-eye parts on regular Scat Packs. And I was like, wait a minute. If I spend $90,000 or more for a red-eye Hellcat, I don't want anybody else having a car that looks like mine and their car being so ridiculously cheaper. Because if they just take that Super Scat Pack and they tuned up the muffler or got a Borla or got a Corsa, their car would not only be louder and sound better than my Hellcat Red Eye, but their car would look just like my car, and the only difference is I have a Hellcat badge and they don't. And, like, nobody's really racing on the streets for the most part because it's too dangerous. Most of these cars are getting wrecked. Drivers are literally flipping these cars over and getting killed. So the reality is you've got people who are driving around in freaking Super Scat Packs that look just like red eyes. To me, that's just, it's like, I don't, that's just cringe. It's like, if I spend this kind of money on a car, I don't want your car looking like mine. It's just that simple. And, so there's some people, oh, yeah, well, you went out and bought an electric crossover SUV. It's like, for the time being, I'm one of the few people that has a car that looks exactly like mine, and that's what I like. I don't want anybody having a car that looks exactly like mine. Now, I understand that this is mass market material and everybody's going to be able to buy the stuff, but the thing about it is I like getting my stuff early, and this way I can dump it and get something newer later on while the people who came behind me are stuck in, what I used to have. That's how I like doing it. But with this market, you really can't really do that because there's not enough new products for you to say, yeah, I'm going to go get something and nobody else can have it. But, it's not that simple anymore. But that's all they have to say. It's like they're talking about, stages and upgrades and microtransactions. So basically what they're saying is if you want more power, you're going to have to pay us through the internet and we'll send an update to your car that updates your car. It's like, I don't think that that's going to go over very well because the reality is no matter how much power you put into these cars, you've got to visit that public charger sooner or later. And when you've got to go, to that public charger, that's when you're really going to find out whether or not an electric vehicle is for you. See, the thing that you don't understand if you don't own one of these cars is you don't understand actual ownership of an electric vehicle. And I've had this argument with people online, but if you're the type of person who you don't do any road trips, you don't drive more than 300 miles a day, or you don't drive more than 300 miles on average, an electric car can very well work right into your routine. But if you're the type of person who's impatient and you don't want to be at charging stations arguing with people, because, people come right up. Usually when I'm at the charger, it's like a lot of times I get there and there's nobody else there and I start charging, and usually people don't arrive until I'm basically finished. Like, for example, today's Wednesday, and I didn't charge today, but I will charge tomorrow, Thursday. I think right now I have about 160 miles worth of range, and I've realized that what I can do is I can drive my Jeep SRT on the weekends, and I can charge my car and on, let's say, Thursday or Friday, or preferably Sunday or whatever. But I can drive my Jeep SRT on the weekends and not use my electric car during the weekends, and I can drive it all through the week. And I can make it through the entire week on 300 miles worth of charge. But what I've noticed is when I go to the charger, usually I get there when there's nobody else there. But by the time my charging session is ending, people are starting to show up. Some of these motherfuckers, I'm not, I can't name names. I'm not going to really show pictures, but some of these motherfuckers, what they'll do is they'll see your car there. They'll walk up to the machine and they'll start touching the machine while you're using it. And they're looking to see how much time you have remaining. Now, the problem with my car is my car charges beyond the session. So for the session allotment, the machine basically gives you about 45 minutes, right? But it takes my car about an hour to charge. So my car will exceed the session and it will keep charging. I have free charging for 2 years and I intend to get every electron I can get. So you get these fuckers who start walking up to your machine while it's charging and they're looking at it and touching it and shit. And when I see that, I just start staring right at them. And I look right at them. It's like they act like, oh yeah, how much longer are you going to be, buddy? And all that bullshit. And I'm like, I'm going to be as long as it fucking takes. That's how long it's going to be. But people will walk right up to your machine and they start touching it. Imagine you're sitting in a parking space and imagine that your car is parked and somebody comes up to your machine and starts looking at your parking meter and starts touching it and shit. It's like, excuse me? It's like, unless you're planning on putting an extra quarter in there, don't touch my fucking parking meter. And that's the problem ultimately with public spaces. I've railed about the subway and I've railed about the bus and how much I hate the subway and the bus inside New York City. You've got homeless people stretched across the shit, taking up all the seats, and you can't do anything about it because they're there asleep and they may be irate fucking drug addicts. The only people who could do anything about it is the cops, and the cops don't want to do anything about it because they already know that these people are going to fight them, and they're either going to have to tase them or put a bullet in their head. So the reality is the cops don't want to be bothered with it. All the cops want to do is get their pension and get their paycheck and come home, and that's it. They don't want to do nothing else. But they can't do that because in the city, you've got people who are psychotic and irate, and they don't want to deal with that. So they just leave them alone. But the reality is, when you have to deal with anything in the public, now you're dealing with all types of random people with varying levels of mental illness, and you just don't want to deal with it. Now, me personally, once again, I love my car, and I have figured out how to be the early bird, and I get to the charging station before anybody else is there, and I'm charging. When I plug my car in, I usually go, I get maybe some lunch or some dinner or some breakfast, whatever time of the day it is. And then I come back and the car is basically finished. And then if I don't go grocery shopping, I get groceries, then I get back in my car and I leave. But until we get more chargers, it's like you run into a situation where, you're more likely to have a negative run-in with somebody who's a random, NPC, whatever you want to call them. And that's just what it is. And that's the reason why I know the Dodge Charger EV is not going to work well with the Dodge Charger buying audience or the Dodge Challenger buying audience. These people, a lot of them do not have houses. A lot of these people live in projects and apartment buildings. A lot of these people live with their parents. Their parents got a house. Their parents don't have a charger. Their parents have no intention of adding on an electric charger to their house. A lot of these people live in basement apartments and shit, especially here, because you got to remember, New York, New Jersey, the tri-state area, a lot of these people live in apartments. They don't have easy access to public charging. And that's just the reality. A lot of these people, they just want to get their gas, drive home, and then they want to scurry back to their apartment. And that's what it really comes down to. I'm not saying everybody doesn't have public charging or ability, and I'm also not saying everybody doesn't have a house. What I'm saying is a lot of these people don't. Now, once again, I got free charging for 2 years. That's the only reason why I use the public charger. Free charging for 2 years. That ultimately, over that 2 years, I'm literally saving about $10,000. Now, I'm using time to charge the car, but I'm literally saving close to $10,000, literally, because I've done the calculations based on how much energy I use every month. Once that charging time is over, I will be charging exclusively at home. At that point, it makes no sense for me to use the public charger unless I go out of state. When Tesla opens up their superchargers, hopefully, they'll give out adapters to the Dodge Charger EV buying audience. But until they do, I have no intentions of taking my car far out of state because I don't know what the charging infrastructure is like in other states beyond New York. I know what it's like here, but I don't know. Like, if I wanted to drive to Atlantic City, New Jersey, I'd have to check the maps and make sure I know where those EV Go chargers are, because Atlantic City, to drive down there, that's a long ass drive. That's like, from where I am, that's like 200 miles. So I already know that by the time I get down there, I'm going to have like 20 to 30 miles of range left, and I'd be struggling to get to a charger only to not know how many people are going to be at the charger when I get there. See, with Tesla, it's a little bit more comfortable because they've put their chargers everywhere. Like, nearby me, there's at least 4 banks of chargers that I know where they are, and I pretty much know that they're never really very, very crowded, except possibly during winter weather. So, for the most part, until Tesla opens up their superchargers, I have no intention of using public chargers that I have to pay for. And I probably don't really have any intention of driving out of state. If I had to go that far out of state, I'd fly. So if I had to go to Florida, I'm flying. I'm not driving. Absolutely not. I would fly to Florida. I'd get there in 2 or 3 hours. And once I don't even think it takes that long, but it's like 2 hours. But once I get there, I'd rent like a minivan or some shit, and I just drive around in that while I'm there, give them the car back, come back home. I have no intentions of driving around America. So that's one major issue out of the way. The other thing I think that needs to be said is that Dodge under Stellantis, these guys have already slit their throats with this move towards electric cars. Without the V8 engine, there's no point for Dodge to even exist at all. There's no point for them to exist. The only thing that was keeping them relevant was that Hemi engine. Now, without that, they're dead. And I think the telling fact is that Stellantis is forcing you to wait an entire year before you're even allowed to get your hands on the turbocharged 6-cylinder. The twin turbocharged 6-cylinder that they currently have in the Wagoneer and a couple of the other cars that, or I should say the Jeeps or whatever, that they've just brought to market, that Hurricane engine. That engine, oddly enough, was pulled from Roadkill Nights. And I'm guessing it's because they knew it was underwhelming, and I guess they wanted more time to work on it. But regardless of the reason, when this Charger EV debuts, there's no comparison available to the 6-cylinder because it won't be out for a whole nother year. So this is what they're ultimately doing. They're going to make the image of this car as an electric car, and they're not going to allow you to alter that image by making it unavailable for you to get the gas version. Now, any other company would probably launch the EV alongside the gas version. They're not doing that. And I know they don't want to do that because they want to perpetuate the image of this car as electric. Supposedly, the guy who's at the head of Stellantis would not allow Tim Kuniskis to buy electric vehicle credits in order to keep producing the Hemi. They said, yeah, oh, you've got that Hemi? Well, we want to kill that Hemi. The Hemi's gone. And they did, I have to say, from their point of view, they did an excellent job destroying these cars. They did an excellent job. They didn't give you a Chrysler 300 Hellcat. Now, they knew that this was going to be the last call for the Chrysler 300 SRT. They stripped it of the SRT badge. They didn't give it a Hellcat engine. And then they put this old piece of shit out there and say, hey, yeah, well, if you want it, you can buy it. And that's it. And now the Chrysler 300 last call, whatever the fuck they called it, it's gone. I had the one that actually said SRT on it. I had that. And I'm so disappointed with them. I was like, at that point, I pretty much knew they were done. Then they put out that stupid Jeep Trackhawk, didn't give it a Hellcat hood, They didn't give it exciting wheels. It was just the same old product, just tossed out there. And they were like, yeah, oh, you want this? Yeah, just buy it, whatever. And they didn't give a fuck. And then went right behind themselves and put out the Dodge Durango Hellcat and actually made it look worthwhile. So they were like, yeah, we don't give a fuck. You know what? Yeah, we're Stellantis, we're Dutch. Fuck those Americans. We don't care about their egos. We're just gonna put this shit out there, and if these stupid motherfuckers buy it, good for them. And they do it. And that's the attitude. Europeans hate American cars. They really do. Like I heard Jeremy Clarkson, and I've heard a lot of these European car reviewers, and they go on and on about how shitty they are. They hate American cars, right? They don't give a damn about what you want. They look what they've been putting out. Maserati, Alfa Romeos and shit cars nobody wants. Those cars are sitting on the lots not far from here. Tonalis, Quadrifaglios. Nobody wants that shit. And they've been putting that stuff out there. I've seen so few of those cars on the road. I could count them with like just one hand. I've seen so few of those cars. Like those high performance special, the Quadrifaglios. I've seen less than 10 of them. Less. And that's just what it is. They don't care. They just don't care. So that's the reality. It's like this shit is dead. This company, I give them less than 5 years before they go under. Like Stellantis is probably going to cut them loose. And because of regulations, they're still not going to be able to make V8 engines. Dodge is about to die. Chrysler's about to die. They've made it so that Chrysler has just one vehicle. It's a fucking minivan. Now, in 2006, they had the PT Cruiser. They had the 300. They had the Pacifica. It was like back then you actually thought that they were actually doing something. Now, no, they're dead. The only concept that they got coming to market is an electric vehicle, and that's it. And everything else is a minivan. It's like they're dead. Stellantis is trying to kill them, and they're doing an excellent job trying to kill them. So that's basically that. That's all I really had to say. It's like it's over. It's over. Now I gotta say this. For all those people who ran out and bought Hellcats and they paid top dollar for them, for all those people who ran out and paid Scat Pack money and paid top dollar for them, you're probably sitting under so much depreciation and you're probably sitting so far underwater on those cars that the emotional bond that you have with those cars won't allow you to try to trade them in. And the depreciation, as long as that underwater balance that you're sitting on is going to make it so that you can't trade it in. So I have to say, I've been seeing fewer and fewer and fewer Mopars on the road. I think the smart people here anyway, I'm not talking about down south, but I think the smart people traded those cars in already, and they got like BMWs or they got like Infinitis or Audis. They traded those cars in because I'm pretty sure that they saw that the value of the depreciation was dropping on those cars. I'm fairly certain that they traded a lot of those cars in already. When I go by used car lots, I'm seeing a lot of Hellcats sitting on used car lots. For example, when I bought my Lyric, that red eye Hellcat that I saw, the one that was octane red, that car is still sitting on that lot. The person who traded that car in got a CT5V. And the CT5V is like $100 and something thousand, like $115,000. But that red eye that he traded in, that car is still sitting in the front of that lot. And that was back in January that I saw that car before they actually put it on the used car lot, because before that it was in preparation to be cleaned up and all that. And then they put it on the used car lot. That car is still sitting there. And I'm seeing more and more of these Hellcats being traded in. Now, part of the reason is those very high maintenance costs. You know, high brake costs. The rotors are $1,000 a piece. The tire wear is... Like, for instance, I have like 4,000 miles plus on my Lyric, right? And I haven't had to change those tires not once. And those are some Michelin tires and this, that, and other. But there's no burnouts, none of that. But on an all-wheel drive car, the tires last longer. The only downside is that when you have to get new tires, you usually have to repair 2 to 4 of them at the same time. Like on a rear-wheel drive car, you usually only have to repair one set at a time. But the bottom line is these maintenance costs on these things are driving people into the poorhouse. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are being forced to sell these cars. The problem is you're taking losses because you're underwater on the balance. You paid too much. You paid over sticker, and you're underwater. Your insurance company, in most cases, does not insure the entire value of a car if you've paid over sticker. They only insure the sticker value. So it's pretty ugly from what I'm seeing. Like the car market right now, you're seeing more and more of these videos focusing in on Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram dealerships. It's like, oh no, the hype is dead. It's over. This Charger EV, mark my words, this car is not going to do well. People are not going to rush in to sell their Hellcats. Those who do are going to realize that their car has depreciated so much that they're not going to get what they want for it. I foresee that you're going to see a lot of private sales of Hellcats and even Scat Packs. You're going to see a lot of private sales, and people are going to be trying to demand enough money in order to make it so that they can pay off their balance. But the problem is, when these cars hit the market like that, they're not going to be able to get the amounts of money that they want because they're going to be demanding so much money. They're not going to be able to get the asking prices. It's not going to happen. For those people who are trying to upgrade to this 2024 Charger, I foresee that they're going to take huge losses. They're going to end up with a lot of negative equity. But here's the problem. Most of these dealers are not going to make those deals because the banks won't allow them to. Like, they're going to have so much negative equity, they won't be able to roll it into this new car. There's a lot of people who are going to want this car simply because it's new, and they're going to want to be the first person on the block with the new thing. So what Stellantis has done is they've put it into your mind, this is the new thing, and if you don't get this, then you're driving around in the old thing. Now, there are some people who will accept the fact that they have an old car. If they have a Hellcat, maybe they'll be happy about it. Yeah, I've got a Hellcat. My car is better than a new one. The reality is, everybody who sees the new one is going to be like, yeah, the new one's out. When are you getting the new one? They're going to be, oh, your car is old. When are you getting the new one? So this is what Stellantis has set up, basically. They've set up a situation where the new thing you don't want, but if you don't get the new thing, you're going to be driving around in the old thing. That's what they've set up. And if you want that new twin-turbo bullshit V6 engine, i6 engine, that you can't even call it a V6 engine no more. It's like, think about it. They've changed this shit so much that you can't even say V6. That's what everybody understands. Everybody understands V6. Everybody understands V8. You can't even say V6 no more. They've changed this thing so much that most people don't even understand the product anymore. And that's what you're stuck with. The new thing you don't want, and the old thing you're stuck in unless you go get the new thing, but you don't want the new thing. They really screwed y'all over. And when I say y'all, I cut ties with them. I was like, yeah, I'm done. I was like, I'm done. I'm going over Cadillac. Bye. After my lease is up, who knows? Maybe I'll get a Mercedes. Maybe I'll get I don't foresee myself buying any BMWs. But maybe I'll get a Mercedes, or maybe I'll get another Cadillac. Maybe I'll get a Cadillac Escalade electric IQ model. I don't know. I don't know what they'll have out in 3 years, because 3 years from now is a long time. I'm only 4 months in. And I just don't know. But we'll see what happens. But as far as this car, I think they screwed you over. I think they did it as brutally as they possibly could. And now you're going to have to make decisions. There's really not anywhere else you can really go. Nobody's offering any product that exceeds the Hellcat Charger or Challenger. Nobody. Nobody's offering a product that exceeds those cars. Ford sure as fuck is not. Nobody cares about no damn Dark Horse Mustang. That shit is boring. And then they have like, what is it, a GTD? Nobody cares about this shit. And then not only that, you ain't got $300,000. That's the reality. You know, unless you're buying Lamborghinis all the time, it's like you ain't got $300,000. Let's just be honest. So all these people, oh yeah, well if they start making V8s, I'm going to buy a Mustang. It's like, do you even hear yourself? It's like nobody wants no damn Mustang. What are you kidding? Nobody wants that. Unless the car is big, huge, and fucking fast, nobody wants it. And that's the reality. I'm sorry. So now it's all down to electric. So I hope you have a house. I hope you're, if you plan on getting this car, I hope you're getting ready to get your electric charger. And I hope you got an electrician to come in and plug this thing into the side of your house. Either that or I hope you've got a really long extension cord or whatever it takes. I don't know. But that's just where we are. That's just where we are. So that's all I have to say for right now. So I'm just going to put this video out there and see what the critiques and commentary are. But yeah, you're screwed. All right, so here's the story that I promised. This is by Nico DiMattia, I guess that's how you say his name is. So basically, the story is Hellcat owner banned from his own car for reckless driving. He recorded himself racing another Charger at 107 miles per hour on city streets. See, had this been the highway, it might have been overlookable. But when you're doing this shit on city streets, it's like, yeah, the government is coming after you. You've basically self-snitched on yourself. And yeah, they're going to come after you. You know, so yeah, basically it says Belltown is a pretty busy area of Seattle. And by the way, this is one of those liberal blue states, so you know that if they don't like you, they're coming. Filled with high-rise buildings and snazzy condos, noise is expected in such a city, so when you're loud enough to make city residents fill a subreddit with hate for you, you're probably making too much noise. However, being annoying in the middle of the night is one thing. We've all been obnoxious teenagers revving our engines a bit too loudly. But driving at over 100 miles per hour through city streets while recording it for social media is another thing entirely. And enough to get 20-year-old Miles Hudson banned from driving his own Dodge Charger Hellcat. Hudson, who goes by SRT Miles on Instagram, pleaded not guilty to 2 charges of reckless driving following a February Instagram video that saw him hit 107 miles per hour while racing another Charger, according to the Seattle Times. One of the conditions of Hudson's release is that he's banned from driving his Charger Hellcat Jailbreak Edition, locally known as the Belltown Hellcat, for a whole year. He can drive another car, just not the Hellcat. Shelley Anderson, Hudson's attorney, claims that the ban is excessive and that it will prevent him from going to work, but the judge upheld the Hellcat ban. Of course he did. He's a fucking liberal. So anyway, oh, look at this picture. So he's got those stupid space boot things from Mega Man, the black boots on. So this is the guy right here. So you know what? I'm probably going to use this picture. Maybe I'll use that as a thumbnail. But anyway, this is the guy. So yeah, you could basically tell he was looking to get himself locked up. So anyway, Belltown residents have been filing complaints about Hudson with the city and posting the city's responses to Reddit. Hudson's Hellcat has an aftermarket exhaust with a burble tune and no cats, so it's loud. And he has several videos on his Instagram of him excessively revving and racing it at 2 o'clock in the morning. In one video, he looks out at the car from his high-rise balcony at 2:41 a.m. He remote starts it, and it's shockingly loud from even that high up. It's several more videos show him doing donuts and hooning the Charger through Seattle. Hudson currently has over 700,000 followers, and some of his videos have almost 1 million likes. According to King 5 News, when stopped by the police, Hudson reportedly told them that he wasn't going to stop driving recklessly since doing so on social media is making him money. He said he's going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to make a career out of this. You're going to either get locked up or you're going to get yourself killed. Just ask those morons who are driving that that stolen Hellcat 300 in I think it was the Bronx, who slammed into a gasoline truck and killed themselves. Yeah, this doesn't end well. Believe me, it doesn't. So anyway, the other requirements for his release are that he can't have any criminal violations, drive without a license, or drive without proof of insurance. He faces up to a year in jail, a $5,000 fine, or a suspended license for 30 days if convicted. So this story you probably may not have even heard about, but yeah, this is it. So that imagine you just bought this overpriced, marked up car. Imagine that you just did this and now you are banned from driving your car, but you probably still have to make payments. So no matter how much money you're making from social media, believe me, all that money is about to get eaten up. And it really is excessive for them to say that you're not allowed to drive that car. But the interesting thing about that is that I'm pretty sure the judge probably took into account that he was going on social media and purposefully doing things in order to make money. So what they do is they cut you off at the knees and they're like, yeah, you're not allowed to drive that car. So yeah, they got him with that shit. They really got him. But he claims that he's not going to stop doing what he's doing. Yeah, until he gets himself killed. But, it is what it is. So I guess you'll be reading about him, eventually, because they just don't get it. See, the thing about it is these cities, here in New York City, they passed what they call the Sleep Act. And excessively loud exhaust can get you $1,000 tickets. They have that in San Francisco and parts of California as well. And it's not a fix it or forget ticket. It's a ticket that sticks. So when they give you a ticket like that, you got to pay it. So they have cameras that have automatic decibel meters. So they know how loud your exhaust is, and they can send you tickets in the mail and shit. They're not playing around. See, this is part of the reason why I always understood. I was like, you know what? The government's going to mandate electric vehicles, and they're going to force people into them one way or another. And if it's not electric vehicles, it'll be hybrids. Nobody wanted to believe me. Now look, all these new Chargers, all these new Challengers, I'm sorry, I can't even say that. There's no more Challenger. All of these new Dodge Chargers, whether they're 4-door or 2-door, these things are electric or they're turbocharged, and you're not going to hear these things at all. When you rev them, it's going to sound like revving one of those shitty BMWs. It's going to just suck. It's just not going to be loud. It's just not. And these things are going to have factory emissions. Yeah, some people probably try to put a Hellcat engine into things or this, that, and other, but I have to wonder how much money will you even have left considering you're coming off of a depreciated Dodge car and you've lost most of your money to either the markups, the depreciation, or being underwater on your loan. So who knows? I really, at this point, it's kind of early to tell, but yeah, the future is just not looking good for this stuff. And add all of that to the fact that now they've literally got automatic cameras that can listen out for a loud exhaust and send you tickets in the mail. And you're not going to have a good time. Last but not least, Fox Business News has this story here. Americans increasingly upside down on auto loans as used car values fall. Edmunds warns a storm is brewing in the used car market as prices fall, pushing negative equity to an all-time high. So it says used car prices are starting to edge down after soaring for years after the pandemic hit. And while the trend is a much welcome relief for buyers, it is also causing trouble for some consumers who purchase their vehicles at higher prices. Edmunds' latest used vehicle report found a growing number of Americans are upside down on their auto loans. As used prices decline and the average amount consumers are underwater is at an all-time high. The report found the average transaction price for all used vehicles declined to $28,371 in the fourth quarter of 2023, a 4.4% decrease from the same quarter the year before when the Average transaction price sat at 29,690. At the same time, the percentage of new vehicle sales that had a trade-in with negative equity jumped to 20.4%. So you're talking about 1/5, up from 17.7% in 2022 and 14.9% in 2021. Wages in the U.S. are falling at a striking pace. Sorry. Now the average amount consumers owe on upside-down loans is at a record high of $6,064, up from $5,347 in the fourth quarter of 2023 and $4,143 in 2021, the data found. A storm is brewing in the used market as incentives and inventory continue to trickle back into the new vehicle market, said Ivan Drury. Okay, I guess that's it. That's read more. Okay, wait, let's see if I can read more. Okay, with demand for near new vehicles on the decline, used car values are depreciating similar to the way they did before the pandemic. Negative equity is rearing its ugly head. Edmunds' analysis found the consumers most vulnerable to falling underwater on their auto loans are those who purchase new vehicles for above sticker price, because those newer trade-ins are seeing the steepest decreases in value. The data shows that compared to the third quarter of 2022, when used vehicle values were at their peak, the average transaction price for one-year-old vehicles last quarter was down $6,763 to $38,720. During the last few years, consumers could jump into new car loans and their trade-ins were shielded from negative equity because some dealers desperate for used inventory were willing to pay near original purchase prices. He added, these days, consumers need to be more careful, especially if they're trading in newer vehicles because near new cars are being hit the hardest by depreciation. Okay, now I think that's about it. So what does all this mean? So first of all, I was watching, just shaking my head back in COVID when I saw people rushing out to buy cars. And I realized, I was like, wait a minute. First of all, there's going to be two issues. Number one, people were buying cars that in the long run they wouldn't be able to afford if anything happened, like if they lost their job or because first of all, they were buying these cars during, I'll say, 2020. They started slashing prices on everything because nobody was buying anything during part of 2020. It wasn't until 2021 that they started to feel the pressure from the chip shortage, because what ultimately happened, they can blame it listen, the news can say whatever they want. The reality was, because America basically started that conflict with Russia over Ukraine, and because we simultaneously started a conflict with China using the Holding Foreign Countries or Companies Accountable Act, it's called the HFCAA. Because we did both of those things at the same time, they put tremendous pressure on the market. And part of the reason was because Russia provides a lot of the sheet metal that's used in these cars. I learned that from going to Mercedes-Benz. When I was considering buying an S-Class because I didn't know how long it was going to take for me to get my Cadillac. And they told me, they were like, a lot of the metal for these fucking cars comes from Russia. So here you've started a trade war with two countries simultaneously, and you've literally caused prices to skyrocket. Furthermore, the response to COVID was stupid. Those factories, there is no reason why those people couldn't have been working wearing PPE equipment and first of all, most of them already wore PPE equipment, personal protection. They were already wearing face masks and stuff. Now, they justify the layoffs and they justify the factory shutdowns by trying to say that, there was reduced demand. But in cutting back on chip manufacturing, all they did was set us up for an auto market that went insane and was trying to charge top dollar for vehicles, most of which didn't even have all the features. They were selling these cars with missing electric seats, missing powered this, missing powered that, missing navigation, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you look at the market today, the market seems to have caught up. The chip manufacturing has gone into overdrive. NVIDIA's making their chips, AMD's making their chips, Intel's making their chips. It's basically an overdrive at this point. So there is no shortage right now of chips. Every vehicle you see that's coming out that's electric, for the most part, these things are filled with computer chips. There's no more shortage. But the bottom line is people paid so much money just to get these cars that most of them are now underwater. I think about these people who are paying close to $80,000 for Kia Tellurides and Hyundai Palisades and Genesis GV80s. These people were paying $20,000 and $30,000 over sticker for a damn Hyundai or a Kia. Just think about that for a second. There were people paying over sticker for RAV4s, Toyotas. There were people paying over sticker for CRVs. There were people paying over sticker for Jettas and what are those things? Volkswagen Atlas. Any big SUV. People paying over sticker. Like I had some friends paying over sticker for a fucking Acura MDX. I mean, that's just sad. And then there was, what was it? Who else do I know? I know somebody who paid over sticker for, what was it? Range Rover. And I'm like, yeesh. I was like, man, I wouldn't be buying nothing right now. And sure enough, I was like, nah, I'm going to wait it out. I'm not going to buy nothing. I'm just going to wait. And sure enough, now you look at the market. Most of these cars, the depreciation has hit them so hard, they've lost 30 to 50% of their value. And, you know, it is what it is. But how does this relate to the first story about this new Dodge Charger EV? There are a lot of people right around the pandemic time, 2020, 2019, 2021, 2022. There's a lot of people who ran out and bought these fucking Scat Packs and bought these Hellcats. I was just looking at my dealer's website, which I might even go back to it. And they were charging so much for Hellcat. They're charging like over $100,000 for Hellcats. And they're charging what I paid for my 2016 Hellcat was $76,000, give or take. They're charging that much or more for a goddamn Scat Pack right now. They're charging that much or more for these stickers that they put on these cars to make them a special edition. They're charging top dollar for these things. And I'm like, what are y'all going to do when all of those electric Dodge Chargers roll up on these lots? And now your prices have not come down significantly for these Hellcats that are currently existing and these Scat Packs that are currently existing. But now you got to sell these electric cars. It's like you guys are screwed. We'll just take a real quick look at Garden City Jeep Chrysler. They have a SRT Demon. This is a Demon 170, and they want $121,000 for it, right? Then you take a look at the trucks, $86,000 for this Rocky Ridge Ram 1500. So that's basically a special edition. 1500. So they look at $86,000 for these Ram trucks, right? Now, when you're factoring in 8% interest, and that's assuming you have excellent credit, right? You're talking about like $1,600 a month for one of these damn things. Now, some people do come with, money in pocket that they can, knock down that price a little bit, but that's a lot of money. Now, then you talk about these Grand Wagoneers, $90,000, $100,000, $110,000. Now, this is just a Wagoneer. This is not even a Grand Wagoneer because Grand Wagoneers demand over $100,000. And, it's funny. I was looking at these things on the road, and originally I thought they were ugly, and I thought that the third row, it looked odd the way they had cut the back, but I guess they did that because they didn't want people confusing it with the Navigator. But now they just blend in on the road at this point. They're selling pretty decently because there's some people who are buying these things because they have big families. But these prices are high. These Ram trucks, these prices are higher than I ever remember them being. The 4xe Overland, $63,000. This thing is $63,000, $732. It says it has a $79,665 MSRP. That's a Jeep SRT's price tag from 2016, 2015. That's $80,000. But as you can see, they have markdowns already applied to these cars. But I'm like, yo, that's crazy. That is just crazy. Right now, Chrysler is doing a 30% off sale. It's like a 30 for 30 or something, 30% off sale. Let's take a closer look. So if you look at Security Dodge, they have the 170 Demon. They want $235,000 for this green one. They want $228,000 for this black one. They want, what is this? The Charger Daytona. That Charger Daytona King that they had has sat there for a long time. And originally they had a markup on it and they wanted $177,000. The price fluctuated. Now, I guess after it's sat there for all that time, the price has dropped to $139,900. See, the issue ultimately is, you got to understand, it's like not a lot of people absolutely want an orange Dodge Charger. It's like if they're going to buy a Dodge Charger, most of them are going to buy that thing in black, or they're going to buy it in like maybe red, or they're going to buy it in, but mostly, I think it's blacks mostly. But this thing's set on a lot. This thing is set on a lot for so long, and it's $139,000. Then you look down at what is this? A black Charger Hellcat wide body, $114,000 for that thing. And it even tells you what the addendum is. It says that the MSRP was $90,000, which I already think is way too much for that car. But on top of that, they're adding another $25,000. With that Charger King Daytona, the MSRP was $102,000. It went up by $77,000, and now the addendum has been reduced to $37,675. Dodge Durango, they want $111,000 for this thing, and this is a Hellcat Durango. They want $111,000 for it, and it's still being built. It hasn't even hit the shop yet. This one right here, Hellcat Premium, $111,000. Durango Hellcat, your price, $109,000 with a $3,500 add-on, and it's in silver. It's like, hey, listen, somebody may roll up in there and just buy one of these things, but that's a hell of a lot of money for one of these cars. These Hellcats have an added hidden fee. The insurance is high as fuck on these cars right now. When I had mine, my insurance was only like $315 a month, but now the insurance is high. Partially it's because of the theft, partially it's because these things keep getting wrecked and crashed. But just $106,000. The addendum on all of these Hellcats is like $25,000. And you see, this is what's ultimately happening. They're having so hard a time at most of these dealerships selling their cars because of what's going on in the market, that what they have to do is they have to take the special edition cars, or they have to take the cars that people are going to be excited about, and they're marking them all up. So anything with a Hemi in it, 6.2, 6.4, they're marking those things up. And they're trying to use that to prop up their floor plan. That's ultimately what it's coming down to. So they're figuring, if we can get like another $100,000 for this Demon 170, then selling that Demon 170 will help make up for all the money that we're losing on all these goddamn Hornets that we really didn't want, but we've got no choice. And let me tell you something. When those electric Chargers show up at their front door, they're going to be in trouble. Now, I'll say this. There are a lot of EV enthusiasts out there. As you can see, there's a lot of people who buy Tesla. There's a lot of people who are buying, for some reason, these BZ4Xs. There's a lot of people out there who are buying Mercedes EQ products. There are a lot of people out there buying BMW iX products. But the thing you got to understand is that initial sales that happen to the enthusiasts, I think they're going to have a lot of problems selling these cars to the non-EV enthusiasts. And I think a lot of them are going to just wait it out. And if they really do want a Charger or a Challenger, they're going to go after a Charger or Challenger. I think a lot of them are not going to want to buy this Charger EV. If I could hedge, I would say, yeah, I don't think that they're going to buy this thing. I think that a lot of people, especially those who are underwater on their Charger or their Challenger right now, I think a lot of them are going to wait until next year to see, 2025, to see what the six-pack is like. But the bottom line is, no matter how you slice it, the six-pack is a product that they don't want. And they don't want it because it's not a V8. So time will tell, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong. But right now, I think that this is the end of Dodge. And you have some YouTubers talking about how they feel that Stellantis is purposely killing Dodge off, and they're slowly forcing Americans to accept, what are those things, Alfa Romeos and Maseratis and what's that other thing, Fiats. They're slowly trying to force that shit on Americans. And my thinking is, like, I will say this, I've been seeing more and more Dodge Hornets on the road, and they have to sell those things lower than sticker at a loss to sell them. But those cars are too small. They're about the size of a Jeep Compass. They're too small, and I don't really see them doing that well. I really don't. In the long run, I don't see them doing that well. Most people need something the size of a Jeep Grand Cherokee, especially for their family. So I see the Jeep Grand Cherokee L selling very well, but it's because it has 3 rows. So basically buying one of those is their way of getting a minivan without driving a minivan. That's basically what it comes down to. It's all about looks. But I think this car market's in serious trouble. And only time is going to tell.
To be continued.